So, my friends are over here today to help me try to prevent the contamination from 1156 Ellis, which is the building behind me. What has been going on probably for more than 10 to 15 years is this building has a broken sewer system, which is just feet from my living room and my kitchen. Just feet from it. There's a fence, which you'll see when if Denise can tape outside tonight. And there were already, before I moved in here, there were sewer explosions from this guy, even resulting in a move out in 1080 Eddy, which is the building right next to me. The first time, many years ago, this man exploded his sewers to basically release, you know, the lagoon of feces and what have you from, you know, it's an underground lagoon, basically. And the first time he did it, she moved out. There was a woman that lived in my apartment named Evelyn, who was the apartment manager for 1090 Eddy. I believe she also suffered an agonizing death from the sewer. And I've had several roommates have issues because they were living in the room that's just off of my living room. And I have like severe skin rashes, and you know, there were a couple of times where we were sitting around in here and our eyes would just start to water and we couldn't breathe, and we were like, what's going on? And we'd look across, you know, in back here, and one of the garages would be open, and while I was not, you know, as aware as I should have been, the neighbor right beside me worked with the building department to close down a quote-unquote illegal painting business that had been in the garage. So on top of having a broken sewer, which you can go online and look up the Normandy Apartments and see several complaints from their own tenants about the plumbing, they've been pouring solvents into their sewer. So if it's just painting and not something further illegal, just the solvents from painting are not supposed to be poured down a sewer at all, ever.
That's a violation of federal law. Absolutely,
it's a violation of federal law. And so July 3rd and July 9th, before that, weeks before that, me and my sweetheart Lily were so sick. We were laying on the floor. Lily is a pit bull mix, and she started getting very ill, and she passed away. And it was agonizing on the entire Axis of Love community. We love her dearly, and we will never let go of this, and we will make sure that she gets justice, and not just her, but everybody that's facing this sewer. But it goes beyond that. When the sewer erupted July 3rd, I was at my kitchen window, and I began vomiting, and my nose began bleeding, and I just, you know, I didn't know what was going on. I looked out, and I saw a lake of raw sewage coming at me. It was a lake. It was not a trickle. It was not a little overflow. It was a lake of raw sewage, which then went in between my building and the building next to me, this way, not 1080, but the building over here, which houses disabled people, and my building has a lot of elderly people, as does 1080 Eddy. And we saw that sewage go directly into the park and then turn and go down the block into the rain gutters. Several people were calling 911 and 311 and etc. A police car came, the police got out of their car, they took one whiff, they got back in their car and they left.
They didn't want to be poisoned.
They did not want to be poisoned, and one of the things they said was like, well, you know, when I called the police, well, this isn't a crime, blah, blah, blah. It is absolutely a crime to release raw sewage onto somebody else's property. It is vandalism. It is releasing deadly diseases. I mean, this is, you know, stored a lagoon of feces for years being released into the air. The toxins of that mixed with solvents. Yes, somebody needed to be arrested that day.
What they were supposed to do was call the hazmat unit.
They never called the hazmat unit to come over here. Not only did they never call the hazmat unit to come over here, they never called DPW to come and clean it. You know who cleaned it? My downstairs neighbor Lalo. And that is hideous. He was exposed, as we all were. I had thought when I got up in the morning that DPW had been here. And then July 9th, as I was just starting to recover, so mind you, I was trying to clean my kitchen, trying to clean up this hazardous mess by myself, no hazmat, no help from the city, nothing, and still no help from the city, and still no visit from hazmat. And today is September 17th. So July 9th, I'm in my front room. I moved everything from here, where I was sleeping, into the front room, and I started feeling dizzy and sick again. I got up. I was like, there's no way he's exploding his sewer again. He purposefully, late Sunday evening, released another lagoon.
Damn.
And so this time, when I called 911, they were like, do you want me to connect you with 311? And I said, it's Sunday evening. That is going to do nothing. You have an emergency here. And so they got the fire department. The fire department came. They got off their truck. They pulled their shirts up over their face. They said, we'll log this. And then they got right back on their truck, because they didn't want to be exposed to the toxins. But yet, everyone who lives on this block, everyone who lives behind us, beside us, the birds, the soil, the air, the water, has all been contaminated in this area. This entire area is contaminated. Their broken sewer has probably pushed into our plumbing behind them. The soil has to be contaminated. The sewer gases are very dry and poisonous, because what you have in pipes, you generally don't want to have a dry socket. Basically, you want to have some water where your pipes bend, and I believe they probably don't have the right type of wet pockets.
They're not up to code.
They're not up to code. There's no way they're up to code. The city then did go ahead and try to get over here, and this is where it gets really interesting. Miss Stephanie Cushing from the health department's team was the first team over there after their July 9th toxic spill, and they would not allow her team onto their private property.
What?
So she had to make a emergency hearing, and at the hearing, several of my neighbors around my building attended and testified to the severity of the toxic dump. I was bedridden. I have been bedridden for weeks upon weeks upon weeks For years, I've thought that I possibly was dying of breast cancer because it runs in my family, and I was so fatigued and so tired and didn't know what was happening to me. Now it all makes sense. All the rashes, all of the pain, all of the suffering, all of the agonizing death of my loved one. These people need to be arrested. They need to be tried with crimes of reckless environmental, destruction. The water in this area is probably all contaminated. And the layer underneath it that makes it even more dangerous, as I did more research, is that San Francisco itself, sewer system, is from the gold rush. So basically, we're all sitting on top of 48 hills of toxic sewer gases that the city's slowly trying to repair. So, you have one layer of, property management abuse. Underneath it, nothing strong, no real strong infrastructure to kind of, balance, what reckless property management could do. And then you have the fact that all of this flowed into the rain gutter at the corner. And dogs in our park are getting bacteria infections. I know of at least 6 dogs in the last year that have passed from some type of bacterial infection. I'm, closest to the ground, so I probably have the most contaminated water, and I have rashes all over my skin, my forehead, etc. And so what we're going to do tonight, because hazmat hasn't helped, yes, go?
Don't forget that at sewer treatment plants, they always have fires because the methane from the poop, it can catch on fire. So when they have that open pit, that not endangered both buildings.
Oh, it endangered the entire block.
Right.
And then you got it,
and it was hot too, wasn't it? Really hot.
Yeah, I mean, it's been hot on and off, and it's so, it blows directly into my apartment. So I no longer have the use of any of the windows facing the sewer. And the only people that have been here to inspect, and I've requested, you need to go and do, some soil testing, some water testing. You need to test for toxic gases. And then I noticed that he was opening those garage doors and defuming in the evening. And I complained to the health department, and so they set up appointments with him to come and inspect what he was doing. Well, if you set up appointments with him, of course everything's going to look kosher. And it basically, I figured out what he was doing, or I think one of the things he might be doing is one of the garages where he had the illegal painting business, he's probably literally just defuming. The other garage, I believe what he's doing is he's creating a little closet, so when the toxic gases come up, gas circles around things. It has a swirly pattern of travel.
Did you call the fire marshal? Code violation for that. They're not supposed to store flammable things in the garage.
So he's already been cited for the illegal painting business, quote unquote, in 2014 by the Department of Building Inspection. So I think what he's doing is he's letting the sewer gases sort of swirl into the open garages so that they don't go into his tenants' thing.
Oh.
And then the wind blows them directly into my apartment. So he's damaged the whole backside of 1090 and 1080 Eddy, damaged people's health tremendously, and the city really needs to take action. The city does have liability. We're hopeful that the apartment owners are going to file a class action suit. We're going, talking to tenants' rights organizations and etc. but this is really toxic, and you know, it really hurt people. So what, and I've asked for help with a contaminated kitchen from the health department, and said, you know, hazmat really needs to get here. The health department sent over Healthy Housing, Robert and Amy. When they were here, they inspected my apartment. And they said, you know, we really need to be next door, and we really wish that hazmat had got here. Well, hazmat did not get here and has not been here, even though my building management requested that hazmat check out my apartment and see what had occurred. So I'm very frustrated.
So see, that shows me negligence, that liability the city has for not doing anything.
Absolutely, and the fact that, you know, my disability network, my friends have to come over here and help me, you know, block off deadly gases from entering my home, is pathetic. It's pathetic. And, you know, we really need the city to step up, and I'm not sure that that sewer can ever be fixed. You know, I don't know that he could ever really change what has occurred. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to put rubber gloves and everything on, and we're going to seal off my kitchen window. We have a videotape of sealing off the other window. And then the story gets a little bit, it has another layer of toxicity, which is that there was a murder in the garage directly across from my living room in the illegal painting business. And the person's partner was originally arrested, but has since been completely exonerated, which means... The
murder took place right there?
Yeah, which means that there's possibly a fugitive back there. And we had another incident of a car pulling out of there, and the police pulled it over, and the people in the car led them on a high-speed chase. One of the people got away, and when they pulled them over, these people pulled a gun and shot at the police.
Wow.
So, there's a lot of history. You know, as I started exploring this, a lot of long-term, you know, 30, 40, 50-year residents in this neighborhood said that this building has always been a problem building. It has always had terrible management, weird stuff going on, and this isn't fair, and it needs to be resolved. And it would have been resolved if this was a wealthy neighborhood, if this was happening in, you know, Pacific Heights. We wouldn't be wondering. Yeah?
It makes me wonder, why were they running away from the cops and shooting the cops? Maybe they were having an illegal meth operation there or something.
I don't know. Or, you know, I mean, there's a couple things that, you know, are extrapolation, you know, we don't know for sure. But if the person who actually did murder the person is still back there, that's a good reason to shoot at a cop too.
Oh, jeez.
So we have a lot going on here that's very scary and very toxic, and we need the city to partner with us and protect the residents of our block from a very toxic situation. And I just want to show, you know, at the end of this video, I will have Denise show some pictures of my beautiful Lily. Whiskey, who was Tom's dog, also passed in this building, and Little Violet. And they were all older dogs dying from severe bacteria and irritations. So there's a lot of death involved in this, and we're not going to let it go. Thank you. I'm going? So these windows are from 1929. So we have to double weatherproof them with drop cloths and shower curtains and duct tape, so that the sewer gases and, most important, the airborne bacteria that's been tearing apart my skin, tearing apart my chest. My dog, when the vet came for her quality of life assessment, said that her joints had been basically dissolved. I'm having a really hard time moving. I'm having a hard time sleeping. I'm having a hard time breathing. My neighbor, who also faces, not as directly, but also faces the sewer, has several health problems as well. And it just has been blowing on us: solvents, bacteria, raw sewage, etc. It's literally feet from this window, you know, and it's just reckless endangerment of so many lives. I mean,
You're having to seal the windows airtight so that the air can't get in.
Exactly, so that there's not all the airborne activity, bacteria and etc. My old roommate Alex shaved his head bald. We couldn't figure out, you know, why was our skin constantly itching? Why were we both scraping our skulls, literally? And it was because we have, you know, a decade plus of shit lagoons, solvents and bacterias coming into our home, as does everybody on the back side of this building.
Itch now.
I want to take you over into my room so we can
Denise, I need your help.
just pause it. Okay, so this is actually, oh no, and I feel a little bit of air coming actually through this one. But if you take a look, this is how much air was, yeah, we've got to do this one a little bit tighter too. But this is how much air was really coming through. And I was sleeping right here with Lily. And I mean, this is just really toxic, bacterial, solvent-ridden air coming from my neighbor's broken sewer. And we were laying right here, and I actually thought I was going crazy, you know, because I couldn't function right after Lily passed, and I couldn't move around very well, and I thought, oh my gosh, it's just sorrow or agony or whatever. But no, this was still layering on top of my chest and my skin. I've been in and out of the emergency room. Thought I was having a heart attack, etc. But what it is this was blowing onto my chest and just really harming our bodies. So not only was somebody murdered, you know, in the garage, but the spillover, the toxicity of the sewer, you know, killed Lily, murdered Lily, and is starting to murder me. And, you know, yeah, it would be great if this building hadn't been built in 1929, but that's not the reality. And the reality is that he was not up to code. He knew he was not up to code. He went in and broke his sewer twice just to release, you know, what had built up and poured it onto his neighborhood. That's illegal. That is illegal dumping. That is illegal toxic dumping. And, you know, my neighborhood needs representation and restorative justice and reparations. And most importantly, that sewer needs to be contained. The city needs to put some type of structure over it, close it down. If they need to condemn the entire building behind me, then they need to condemn the building behind me. If this plumbing is never going to be able to be up to code, and then the other thing you have to take into consideration is the plumbing ducts on top of the building have also rained down on the entire back of 1090 Eddy and 1080 Eddy.